Hello, I'm back. Okay, so Twitch is doing a funny right now. I can't really change the stream title, so it's still showing you the last stream I did. The title of the last stream I did. Can't really either change it through OBS or through the browser. So I guess it will be have to be like this for now. I will copy this title what I want it to be. I am gonna do the Yorimitsu. No, sorry, not Yorimitsu. There are two new events. There was an update just earlier today, and Sasaki Kojirou is back. I wanted her back. That's one of the free vanguards we used to have, and I had lost hope we would ever get it again. Now she's back. I think it's for 1 week. I think. Anyway, she's back. And reset is in about 40 minutes. So I want to do the event quest for her at least. And if I have time, then I'll do the event quest for the other one. I'll split the VOD up so that way I can upload those separately as a video on my YouTube. Yeah. What's the event's name again? This is what I want to do right now. Kojirou and machine. Let me this Kojirou and machine. Oh, let me just copy this in the clipboard so I have it available whenever Twitch decides or does not decide to fix it. Yay, it fixed. Huh. Alright. It's fixed now. It fixed. Huh. I guess that was a really unfortunate time. I guess they were rolling out an update or something that broke their entire API for a bit. Including their own including their own website. Alright. Has the video title changed? It has not. Huh. Really? I have to check my current stream. Sorry, it's taking too long. I'm troubleshooting a bit. It's not really a big deal if it doesn't update either. I can still continue it and change it for real later. Okay, it has changed. Alright. I'll close the browser here. I don't really need to close it. Also upgraded my RAM. Previously I had 8 GB RAM. Now I have 16. Alright. Okay. So this event is here. The other one is over all the way over there. For now, let's just start. Yes. Alright, let's do this one more time. Oh, it's been a little while, hasn't it? Christmas was it? This is the solar tail version, is it? Ooh, kiri kiri. Domo domo. What am I doing? I can tell by looking. Chiyo jatta ne. Atarimai daro. Baka yaro. Just a little more practice. Koshizutsu. And I'll be able to sashi. Shouldn't we cook? What are you still doing, yeah? That's out of it. You're coming with me. She's a ray of sunshine, is it? What am I doing in a place like this? Can't you tell just by looking? I'm training. And now, so are you. Okay. So, we're going to Mount Abu the Summer. Where is Mount Abu the Summer again? No, seriously, where is it? Oh, okay. Huh. No. That was funny. Oh, so handsome. Mm-hmm. Yep, you had it. I don't know if I have any accessories I want to change. Loud! 1 second. This should be fine. I have a little bit of phlegm. Oh, sorry. Hi about that. So... Oh yeah, I summoned her. Yay! You know, even after summoning her, I never heard the voice. It's been... I don't know if I had her the last time I streamed. Oh yeah, I did. I did have her last time I streamed. I just wasn't leveling her. Yay! There's the only Kichimuna that has voice. Like a proper Kichimuna. I'm not talking about a Kichimuna maiden. I'm not talking about the humanoid version. Yokai. Hey, I'm not talking about this one. He obviously has a voice. None of these have a voice. Except this one. None of these. Or this one. I summoned 2 of them, actually. Yay! I have summoned 2 of them. So you might be wondering, why don't I just use a mount? I don't know. This is so much easier. Where it is? What was the level? 10? Oh. Alright, I'm killing other Kichimuna. Right in front of her. Oop. I don't know if they have special voice lines for that scenario. Oh, I also don't know if I can clear the special challenge for this one. Does this dungeon have a special challenge? Look like it does. I think it does. How was it, Masashi? Oh, wow. Whoa. Okay. That was a lot of drop. They super boosted the drop. Huh. I definitely was not getting this many drops the first time I did this on US PC. Yeah, there are 2 events right now and both of them are reruns. The other one I believe is Yorimitsu's Dark Twin event. I think she gives silhouette weapon. I'll have to confirm. Why am I with this robot, you ask? I borrowed it from that inventor friend of yours. She said she was keeping an eye on it while they traveled or some such, but got called away by the shogunate on some urgent business. Shugyo, Shugyo! And cute boys. Rase, shall we go another round? When I saw this thing, I thought it would be perfect for training. It's nice to be able to have a sturdy training partner like this around. Well, she did make me promise not to break it. Ikozo. Next up is Blue Lotus Grove of Summer. Okay. Level 50, okay. That was 10. Oh well. I'm pretty sure I can clear the hell mode easier in this one. Since we have gotten so much more powerful systems. Ouch, that was loud. Alright, we still have 30 minutes until recess. I have to keep track of that so I don't lose the achievement. The daily achievement. Wait, why am I keeping track of it? Ooh, the Kichimune attack that's flying. That was nice. Oh, never mind. I can't one hit kill them with the sword basic attack. Maybe because they have a wind resistance? The sword is wind. Oh, wait. Backward? Oh, backward. Oh yeah, sorry, not ornament. I use the life skill. The basic combo life skill on this thing. So whenever I attack anything, I get 10 HP. I attack anything with a basic attack. Oh yeah, memories come floating back. I remember this. You were supposed to be hard. Wow, you are hard. Huh. There we go. I believe this dungeon drops her scrolls at a very rare rate. Ooh. So, huh? Ganryu style. I did not get Ganryu style in the last one, right? Yeah, I got Genki part. And then research data. And now I got style training. And yeah, for the research data. Oh. Oh. I don't remember the drops being unfair. Maybe they were. Alright. Okay. This one do. This isn't enough. This right. Musashi. Musashi. Oh. Sword motion and tracing data compilation complete. Now cute boys. Again, shut up. Who cares about boys? Anyway, instead of fighting with me, this machine records my movements and stores them as data or something. It's pretty damn into its research. I don't give a broken or about boring nonsense like that. If you've got the time to be standing around here, and you've got the time to help me train, I'll consider giving compensation if you do. You're strong, so I'm sure it'll be good practice for the both of us. Don't let it go to your head though. Don't let that go to your head though. You couldn't hold a candle to Musashi-san. Ah, Musashi-san. Musashi-san. Upward. I guess this was it. Alright. You want something? Well, you did come train with me. I suppose there was something at least. Oh, fine. I guess I've got no choice, do I? Just pick whichever one you want already. Ooh, 7. Aw, 7. Yeah, I need 11. No? Or 10? So I can get 7 of these from here, and I guess I would want the rest from a drop. Also, wow. I'm already. This is what? 4th? 5th? Isn't this more than a 5th already? Whoa. They super boosted the drops. Also, Holy Knight. Yep. I like our base outfit though. Ooh, Flying Swallow. This is new. Also, this is new. Huh. You know what? Well, no, I like the Gale Sword better. I was thinking I might actually use this. I may actually use this one though. I will keep the Ibis Sword, but maybe I'll use this one for the other one. Ooh, 50. 100. Ah, so you're the opposite times of each other. 800. Okay, sure. Alright. Okay. What's doing? So it says daily complete. Ara. Oh, so it has dailies. Staple of the Drawn Blade. Staple of the Drawn Blade. Please excuse me, rudeness, but I think this should come naturally. Ah. Okay. Daily Kojirou suppression. Abuta and Blue Lotus, I get one more prayer and repair. And Mithril and Thorn Piece Gacha. I out, but there's no daily total here. I can do. Okay, hold on. Kojirou suppression means Blue Lotus Grove. Also means Solag. This gives me energy restore, so it's good to do the normal one daily. Once. Spirit Crystal, I have a lot of. I don't really care about it. And the repair fairy, I don't really care about this either. Because I have a lot of it. May. Yeah, I will. I think it's probably good to do for me. Just do Blue Lotus Grove Summer 3 times. Daily at least. Make it part of my daily routine, but not the other one. Well, I would need to farm that event though. That dungeon as well for that item drop. Okay. Do you have any bonus? Okay, I have no partner. Let me give them bonus. And full replica. And possess? Huh. I guess that's. Oh, little Musashi. as a bonus drop. Okay, some of my arts have these. None of my arts have Kojirou flying swallow. Yes, lucky Kojirou herself. I should probably change back my. Okay. So I guess it's not good to just farm one dungeon because you want a balance of both of them. And this is my attacking set. Uh, huh. What was I saying before this? It's so long since I had to go to a regular or loadout. I do have 20 minutes left, so you know what? Nah. Let's do the other one. This one. And what's this? Yorimitsu. Just Yorimitsu. I'll change my title as well. Yorimitsu. Yeah, I'm not gonna make a 30-minute squad. Okay. Game title change. Yorimitsu. Okay, let's go for it. He's facing that way, so yeah.
お兄ちゃん、明けましておめでとう。今年もよろしくね。今年もみんな楽しく過ごせる一年になるといいわね。
It's a New Year's event. Alright. Oh, I guess this was a New Year's event, huh? Thanks so much for all the help we met. Akemashite omedetou. Where's the Happy New Year? Oni-chan, Happy New Year. Thank you so much for all the help last time we met. I look forward to what new last year. For the last year. I look forward to what new adventures we'll have this year. Don't get injured, okay? Oni-chan, you're always busting your back for us. I worry about you. Here you are. I'm greeting card for this year. Wow. Arigato. Oni-chan probably also had a lot come their way. I came from that mountain over there. Miro, Oni-chan. Look at this postcard. Maybe yes. It's nice to see that you're doing well. I thought I was the most happy one. I guess I was wrong. Hey Chan, is this your friend? It's nice to meet you. Hajime. It's nice to meet you too. Gakura-sama desu. Who are you? Watashi wa Kenbu desu. Kenbu? You mean from the Four Signs? Oni-chan, you sure know some amazing gods. I'm not that amazing though. Yeah, she's a kudere. Kenbu is a kudere. I wanted to give you this. I postcard. I've been blessed with a special energy so that you can hurry up and drop dead. I wanted the body of you. Yeah, she apparently fulfills the role of the otherworld gatekeeper, like Hades here. Or maybe a farrier. Yeah, farrier is more. Nantinic. You got the character, huh? And you have a turtle. Oh, how adorable. Kawaii katte ne. This is going to be a pain. I also prepared some postcards for everyone. What's wrong? I thought this was a postcard, but it's an order from Raiko-san. Right, Mama Raiko? Mama! That can only mean one thing then. Kintoki. Are you by chance? Are they Kintoki Kana? Part of the fort he was under the command of Minamoto no Yorimitsu? Oh wow! Gotta give you props. You actually know about us. Well, don't give me all the props yet. I only know of your name. Well, except for Minamoto no Yorimitsu. Mama Raiko is only next in line after her rabies. Oh. She was going to go after her after us. I have an entire list of people's bodies I want to make my own, you know. Hehe. Huh? Daijobu ka? That sounds kind of weird. And the kanji. Oh, don't worry about it. Yeah, she seems like someone would say ooh instead of eh. Ah. Raiko's son's orders are come to Kyoto when you get the chance. When you get the chance? Wonder what is going on. Well, I have some idea. It's also been a while since I've last been to Kyoto, so this will be a perfect excuse to go. Oni-chan, do you want to go too? No. Eh? What? Well, no adventures for you this time, I guess. Come back if you change your mind. He always likes saying no.
お兄ちゃん、明けましておめでとう。今年もよろしくね。今年もみんな楽しく過ごせる一年になるといいわね。
今年もよろしくね means good luck this year as well, I guess. And she doesn't say the first part, she says the second part. I look forward to what new adventures we'll have this year. So there's around 14 minutes left until daily reset. I want to say something else. I don't know if I should, because that might jinx it as well. I have some plans for streams going forward. I don't know if I should disclose them, because whenever I say anything, I end up doing the exact opposite. Maybe I already jinx myself by saying I have plans. I hope it's not that. They must keep moving. As if the dialogue was still going. I guess I like that part. I don't like that part when if there are cutscenes they have a unusually long delay. I guess that's made. I think I've made this point before. But if there's a cutscene, there's a very long delay, a long pause. I think they made this for streamers specifically. Right? It fits streamers well, since if they're listening to the voices, then they can also voice over that. And during the time there's pause to read as well. Yep. I do wish this thing had a text speed adjustment option. Maybe they'll add that later on. I do have more confidence in the abilities to do anything, because they added auto loot and they actually fixed the auto loot thing. Yeah, they also fixed the auto loot thing last week. Now if Okay, I'll speak about it later when we're in the dungeon. But now let's go through the story. Oh, if Arivius is going, then I'm going to take along too. But of course, you're more than welcome to. Yosh, Kyoto ni Hikoso. I hope you're enjoying the new year, Oni-chan. Akimashite omedetou, Oni-chan. Due to instructions written in a New Year's card, I have come by Rako-san's orders. Rako-san is my boss, Minamoto no Yorimitsu. I think I'm going to head over to Kyoto now. Want to join me, Oni-chan? Yeah, I think that's the same Raiko-san from Fate. From the Fate series. Kyoto! Iko, Oni-chan! Okay, so I have to actually go to Kyoto. Yeah, I think the main event is right at the entrance. Well, in the center. Not at the entrance, but in the center of the Dragon Spire Tower. At the foot of it. Kyoto takes a long time to load, but I do like the BGM. Well, I like the BGMs of all the town. But it's especially refreshing once you get to go to another town because you stay in Onigashima so long. Yep, here it is. Payment. There is supposed to be it. Where is it right now? Oh, okay. So, in. Yeah, supposed to be at the gate. There it is. Hello, Yorimitsu-san. Kin-chan! Akemashite omedetou! Hisashiburi desu ne. Are? Are you guys Kin-chan's friends? I'm sorry for abruptly summoning you all here. Maiko-san, it's good to see you too. Good to see you. This is the person I wrote to you about before, Oni-chan. This is the first time we meet, in this event. So, Atashi wa Minamoto no Yorimitsu. Sorry, let me try again. Atashi wa Minamoto no Yorimitsu. I've heard so much about you. I've also exterminated a Kamiko here too. I'm glad to be in the company of a strong person. And this is Genbu-chan. I just met her. Genbu-chan. Are you by any chance the Genbu? Are Genbu? Genbu of the Four Signs? Can't believe my luck this year. I'm so lucky to be able to meet all these legends this year. Hajime Moshite. She's not as voluptuous as I thought. And she's not even wearing purple like in the pictures that red-headed nerd showed me. Yeah, that's definitely the fate. Minamoto no Yorimitsu. Red-headed nerd, huh? Oh, Kaguya. Alright, yeah, she is definitely fate. Kaguya is meta as hell. Anyway, Raiko-san, what's up? I was so surprised when I got the letter from you. I just wanted to eat some of your home cooking, Kin-chan. Huh? I actually sent some bad energy around Kyoto, so I came back here. However, upon arriving, I saw that nothing had happened. And then I got hungry, see. And it's been a while since we have been around each other. All I've been eating these days are instant meals. Oh. Huh? Did you read the memos I left for you on how to make... Oh, sorry about that. Let me do this again. Huh? Didn't you read the memos I left for you on how to make an easy meal? But I can't even make a sunny side of egg. Hmm. This Yorimitsu is much more different than I had envisioned. So you said you felt some bad energy? Hi? Raiko-san is usually right about these things. She has a real knack for finding yokai too. Hi! The energy sent some shocks through my body. Oh, Soka. There is definitely something up here. Something is going to happen. And I can feel it too. Yorimitsu-sama! Yorimitsu-sama! Hmm? What happened? Wow, how nostalgic. A Shikigami from Kyoto. The Shikigami of these days take on the form of humans, huh? Oh, thanks for the follow. Okay. Shuten Doji was seen in Thunderscale Temple. Shuten Doji. What? Is anybody hurt? No. They're supposed to be robotic. I see. Thank you for your report. Let's go. Ah, ichatta. Kind of crazy, eh? Raigo-san is pretty savage when she goes into fight mode. Anyways, Shutendoji really in Thunderscale Temple? Wait, why don't we friends with Shutendoji? Let's go find out, Oni-chan. Ikoze Gembu. Oh, I'm doing just on PC. You can actually download this from Steam, but I'm using the actual the launcher they provide on their own website. Thunderscale Temple is in the east. Let's go, Oni-chan. Thunderscale Temple is east of Kyoto, right? Hmm. They said east, I immediately went west. Alright, thanks for stopping by. Have a nice day. Alright, Thunderscale Temple. Supposed to be this one, huh? Yep, it's this one. Here it is. Wait, do I have anything bonus related? Absolutely nothing. Oh, so I would be able to get these. Okay. Bamboo shade, Magatama. Oh, I don't have these. Bamboo shade. These sound like they would be water element. Huh. Okay. So even though it's a rare event, they added water knowledge, Magatamas. Wait, no, that's not knowledge. Otherwise, they would have tears, and all of them would have bonus. So it's not that. Oh well. I'll find out once we're done with this story. Also, 3 minutes left until reset. Daily reset. Maybe I should use a bow. Yeah, this is gonna take a while though. Because these guys move back whenever you approach them. Why do I feel slower? I should have maximum. Okay, shut up. I should have maximum speed. I feel a lot slower. Maybe it's just because this place is so big. Oh. Okay. Oh, you managed to cancel my attack. Interrupt my attack rather. Not cancel. Interrupt. Alright. Oh, ini basah. I don't know what basah means. Asabimas? Oh, I so remember this dungeon. Now I'm starting to remember this. I had such a hard time in this area. Specifically this particular area. And I think if I'm remembering this right, I had a lot of problem with those Toraki. I had no good elements here. I think I was using Genna here. Oh, Shuten Doji's theme song. Alright. Raiko-san! Ah! Shuten Doji! Oh. After the gorilla girls, we have a bear now? What a bunch of annoying brats. Gorilla girl? He must be talking about Raiko-san. He has no respect for anyone, huh? You can't just go around calling people names like that. Just because one time Raiko-san broke a golden club with her bare hand when she gripped it a little too hard. You must be kidding. Shuten Doji, just what are you planning this time? Huh? What are you talking about? Nani ga teme ka? Are you trying to say I can't come to Kyoto? Don't play dumb with me. I know of all the horrible deeds you have done and across all the cities and towns you have shown up at. I guess my reputation really does precede me, huh? But you see, I haven't done anything. Yet. What are you? I'll have your head on a silver platter by the time this is all over. Did you not see we're also here? Last time I thought we we were on good terms. Ooh, suck. Ooh, daily reset. Looks like we can't settle this right away. Well, Shuten Doji, I guess he isn't all talk. Oh, you, Arabia. Are you still fooling around with all these idiots? Oh, yeah. He noticed us. What is that supposed to mean? Exactly what I said. I see you have all these beautiful girls around you. Well, I don't care anymore. What are you talking about? Huh? Raiko-san. He's here. And I feel intense yokai energy. Is it that thing again? Huh? Dosta? What happened? Ha ha! I was waiting for this. I don't have time for the likes of you fools. Hey, Mate! I know where he's going. The scent is so strong too. What are you guys even talking about? What is going on? This is what Raiko meant when she said she had a bad feeling about this. This feeling. It's coming from out there. Ikozo! It is? Ooh. So we're at the main event area already. Just like this. Oh, I can't talk to anyone else. And there are only 3 NPCs. Alright. What is this? It's Dark Pin. Do you remember? This is the first time I've heard of it. It is the energy and feelings of the dead. It warps the very fabric of time and space as it moves about and makes its own space. It's very rare for it to appear in a place full of living people. You see, he has no interest in living humans. So for him to show up here and open up his own space must mean that there is something out of the ordinary about this spot. We have to get rid of it. I'm sure we'll find Shut and Doji inside too. I wonder why he was waiting for Dark Flame. Well, spoilers, but he was trying to help. Perhaps he wanted to test his strength up against it? Exactly. Yep. He did not have any noble intentions, but he was helping. But I'm sure if we let him do that, then everything will be reduced to rubble. We gotta stop them. Not really. Since Kembu just said because that Darkwind creates its own space, she can go wild inside. Gloomy Red. So first I got first class sake. Let's see what drops this time. Why do I hope I can get Salute weapons? Oh, wait, this is a regular boss team? I know I did something better here. Alright. Dark Fire. Wow, this is huge. Darkpin is acting stranger than usual. Perhaps it's gotten even crazier? I wonder if it has something to do with Kyoto. Oi, what the hell are you all doing here? Leave us alone. If it's something that could endanger everyone, you bet your butt I'm going to come hunting it down. And I won't let you destroy Kyoto. Huh? Who cares if you don't allow me to do something? I don't need your permission, and I sure as hell don't care. You idiots have your heads so far up your butt. Perhaps with all this justice stuff, I'll make you regret coming here. Hey, I don't even know what is truly good or bad. But anybody that dares bring harm to the land of the rising sun, land of Neong, is my enemy. That's all. You should speak with beautiful words, but the proof is in the pudding. And I don't think you'll be a match for my skill. Hello, thanks for the follow. Get ready for a real moment. I like the model of this dark thing. Anyways, point. Oh, it's wrong. It needed 2 hits to get its sashimi 62. I think they boosted that drop thing. Yep, that's where the sashimi came from. Hi, Mia-san, the final blow is yours. Even though I'm using a bow. Koso. It ran away. Yaru janai. Hi, Oni-chan. Kakkoi desu ne. You sure are a stubborn one. I was just surprised Ryuta and Doji did not want to fight us after that. Again. Just because he wants to fight strong people. I guess the only bad part of Kyoto is that it takes a long while loading. I hope they added the rerun thing so that you don't have to go out of the dungeon once you clear it. What's with that funny look on your face? Oni-chan! Psycho da ne! Mama Reiko kawaii da ne. But she has nothing on you. Hmm? Hmm. Hmm. I'm sure she has a little more subtle difference on there. Nobody simply the best. What an amazing victory. It looks like the hole that Dark Pin ripped open is gone too. Let's keep an eye on this place in case anything else happens. Oni-chan, 怪我はないんですね。はい。Yatta! I knew you would come out unscared. Hmm. Oh wow, you look really pissed. I can't believe you idiots. Yes, stole my final hit. I was supposed to finish it off. Oh yeah. And that's why I was surprised he did not come fighting us after. I was gonna kill it and then find and destroy Kyoto. Of course he won't. If you just acted more grown up, set a freaking trap, then maybe people won't hate you. All these flavors in the world and you choose to be salty. Let's say, shut up your stomach, please. Shut up your stomach. You're lucky I'm above dirty tricks and chose not to end your life while you were back there. Tony Kaku. Why did Darkfin rear its ugly and stinky face? I asked around and nobody seems to know why. All I heard was that it showed up around these parts, and I came to see. Can't blame me for wanting to test my strength against it. Guess we'll never know. Is there something bothering you? Well, like I said, normally Darkwind doesn't show up in two places where there are a bunch of living people. Something strange must have happened. There has to be a reason. Well, at any rate, this isn't your issue to worry about. Uh, Not really actually. I really stream only last stream I said was 3 weeks ago. So yeah. I either stream every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks. And I don't really keep a regular schedule either. Sorry. I will try to be better and regularly streaming. It will take a while though. While we were able to get rid of it, we should not let our guards down. Who knows when it'll be again? Hi, we all need some good rest though. Let's go eat something delicious. Aratane, aratane. Kinchan Shiori? Oh boy, I'm looking forward to this. Hi, you can bet your cute little butt that will be both loads of veggies and meat. Nembu-chan and Shuten-chan, you two should come too. Huh? 大丈夫です。本当? Well, if you don't want to, then don't, but... Oi. Don't make that face. Well, I guess I can have a few rounds. Atta? Honto? Ikuzo! Yattazi! You guys are a real piece of work, you know that? I was really looking forward to destroying Kyoto this time around. Not on my watch, Shuten. Not on my watch. Item exchange. Yorimitsu and look, oh, both of them with the Yorimitsu. Huh. Alright. I don't know, you were sorry they were nothing right out in a second. Alright. Now that workshop. Kim-chan, is the food ready? In a second, Raiko-san. What have I told you about your little hug attacks while I'm cooking? Abunai desu ne, so get it out. Gomennasai. I don't think I made enough. And Zoni alone is kind of lame. I don't seem to have enough ingredients to make something else. Ingredients. Oh, I know of something good. And just add this here and ja ja. Sake, sashimi, and In? I I picked these pins up while I gathered the broken Dojikiri blades. And you know who dropped the Osake? Our resident drunkard Shuten Doji. You know he's no good because all this sake was stolen. So I checked out the local liquor stores to return the stolen goods. They repaid my good deed with sake. Okay, those sashimi pieces and pins are from what I think they're from. Aye, they're from duck fin. You're literally eating the boss you just defeated. They should make a great boiled shark fin dish, I think. Hmm. You know, I actually never have had that. I would like to try shark fin soup once, at least. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Lauren. Hmm. As a cook, if I can call myself that, it kind of gets me amped to try something new with some unconventional ingredients. Yoshi. Well, I guess it's settled then. Hariba-san, you probably know the drill. Are they on a item exchange? If you find any of the required materials, please bring them to me. Mhm. We're gonna have Kinchan make us a delicious feast. And I think she's an unlock.
集めてくださったんですか。さすが頼りになりますね。ありがとうございます。これでよろしいですか。これでよろしいですか。
Alright.
これでよろしいですか。
I know she had different weapons. Alright, of course, once you increase her awakening levels, you can get more weapons on her, yeah.
これでよろしいですか。
Alright. Now, the Lotus Spiker. Oh, she has 3 weapons on her of her
これ
own.
でよろしいですか。
Ah, this is the silhouette.
これでよろしいですか。
Yeah, but these are just skins. Where's the actual weapons? There they are.
これでよろしいですか。
So first, I would need this for the bonus drop boost. I prefer Sasaki Kojirou's sword.
これでよろしいですか。
Okay, I like this. The skull ball one. It's just floating around. Well, to be fair, it also floats around on her as well. Then,
これでよろしいですか。
ooh, 800. How many did I get? 62. Ah. Huh. You know, this is actually doable. That was just normal that I got 62 from. So once I get the drop boost and then do the helm mode, I should be able to get around 200. Huh. Bamboo shade is what?
これでよろしいですか。
104 stone. Wait a second. It is. It is the knowledge Magatama, but the second tier of the knowledge Magatama. 12743 chakra. And this plus sword. Oh, it's the weapon upgrade, not the Magatama upgrade. 130.
これでよろしいですか。
Oh, this looks like a shadow, but it's actually a Oh, it's a Magatama. My bad. It is a Magatama. Magatama is specialized for bow users. It's also recommended for those who like exploring bamboo groves. Exploring bamboo groves. And there is absolutely no change between the 110 Magatama. Oh, there it is, the 110. There's the base knowledge Magatama, but water element. We actually needed one water element Magatama for a long time. This is nice.
これでよろしいですか
501. Alright. Yeah. Yeah. You're getting wind Magatama. Sorry, water Magatama here. I don't think. So, one thing. I don't really have any weapons or any partners that can do water type attack. But I also think I don't have any skill. Well, I am a both user. I can use Aqua Needle, but I think I don't have any Ogi skills for water types. Maybe I think I have Chase Blister Sublime, but that's yeah. Alright. Yeah, this is the Knowledge Magatama series. Also, the flavor text on Silhouette is different from these. Only for Silhouette. This Magatama is made from special ingredients obtained by defeating the Slate Sword Gargoyle. What? Yeah, where's the mature tell about it? The more damage you take, the stronger you get. No, you don't. But it seems your healing is going to drop a lot if you aren't healing. You gotta be careful when using. Oh, okay, come on. I know what the flavor text is from, and it's definitely not Silhouette Magatama. I think I have the other version. Not the exact one, but the other version of the other gargoyles. Okay. A replica of the spear called Masuhana that Yorimitsu wields. It's much lighter and easier to carry than the original. Alright. Replica of the skull affixed to Yorimitsu's armor. It's rumored that the original skull is based from an Oni that Yorimitsu slayed, but this rumor cannot be confirmed. And the form unlocks just a regular sword weapon upgrade.
これでよろしいですか
Specific upgrade weapon is 805.
これでよろしいですか
And this is 802. I imagine Belay would be very hard to get. I hope they're not. Oh, you're gonna get 3 at least. This is the tail of the Dark Pain Sun. At least looks like a tail.
これでよろしいですか
Alright. Oh, I forgot to check the flavor taste of the items I just got. As a drop. Oh, they have Magatama boxes. You know, these are very good if you can get lucky and get the bottom Magatama, like the fused ones. Those would be very good. Or the one tier before the fused. And this is absolutely useless. Magatama 1. Ooh, Scrap Vanguard.
これでよろしいですか
Of course, it costs 2000. You know, actually could not exchange the one from the last event. Like yesterday. Because I had something to do. And last time it was Scrap Assist. And this time is Vanguard. And I do believe I want Vanguard more than any assist or mount. Just because Kirigakure Saizo is the current meta Vanguard right now. You can exchange for it once the event comes around. Okay. Jolly Roger. One of the island materials. Very rare island materials for Dark Fin weapon. This is the Silhouette series though. But Dark Fin from the actual wording.
これでよろしいですか
500.
これでよろしいですか
And this is from Razeway Island. The super rare 0.000001% drop. That never seems to actually drop. I guess. I don't really want this. Yet I would have to farm all of these anyway. So I want Fragment of Power, Jolly Roger. Maybe Weathered Arrow. Donko Daruma. Don Daruma. Chief Daruma, Don Daruma. I don't. Okay, I want these though. Infernal Marrows. I want 99 Infernal Marrows
これでよろしいですか
for unlocking a skill on Parvas Gargoyle. So this. I'm not sure if I want a huge gold club. I want debris. This was very hard to farm.
これでよろしいですか？
The 4 items? Yeah, I want 4 of these items. Okay. Divine Fire. I don't really care about Divine Fire. I want Mysterious one. And the skill slot blue. Okay. This is going to be my permanent farm area, I guess.
これでよろしいですか？集めてくださったんですか。さすが頼りになりますね。ありがとうございます。
Oh, you brought some? Sure, reliable. Thank you so much. Okay. What's with that funny log and effect? Alright. Oni-chan. Taiko Dani. Thank you for working so hard. We should take a break every now and then. Mama ko kawaii ne. She has nothing on you. What is so I got
集めてくださったんですか。さすが頼りになりますね。ありがとうございます。
I did the normal ones of these, right? Don't get hurt. Right. So this would be using Yorimitsu herself, right? Right?
主天童子。
Yep.
これまで幾度追い詰めたにもかかわらず逃げられました。
Every time I encounter
次になったならば、今度こそあの首を切り落としてやりましょう。
For sure, I will cut off his finger. Why the finger? It took so long that the dialogue bubble even went away. Oh. Alright. I don't have anything super effective on any of these. Alright, my yokai got unsummoned. I always like to unsummon my yokai myself, rather than let the game unsummon them.
さすがですね。その技のキレ、私も見習いたいものです。
Alright. It's a bit loud. Hold on. Okay.
私は源頼光、城下の守護なり。日の本にあだます者は成敗します。とは
Oh, there's one left. Oh, wrong way.
視線走破と避難所
Ooh.
同雷神
Ah.
視線走破と避難所
Alright.
同雷神で一つ撃砕真意同雷神
Alright.
と真意同雷神
Ooh.
同雷神
Alright.
一つ撃砕同雷神
I'm doing cap damage.
と避難所視線走破
So the rage is still up there.
一つ撃砕真意同雷神た一つ撃砕
Alright. You know, if I use it once, it actually gets
真
registered.
意同
My
雷
skill
神
list. I can look these skills up later on.
と避難所
Here we go. At least they will
視
do
線
that.
走破と被弾傷視線走破
You know, I think it's better to just normal attack them.
視線走破視線走破で一つ撃砕とおーっと張り切りすぎて負けがと金ちゃんがないと直せないのにとは
Okay. How do I use this gate?
で真意道来人
He only has one weapon.
道来人お腹が空きました金ちゃんにご飯を作ってもらわないといやお腹が空いたので目玉焼きを作ろうと断じて未確認生命体を作ろうと思ったわけじゃないですよ
Midaki Semeitai. And fight life down. At least she's aware. You know, most of those characters are not aware of how bad their cooking are if they have a bad cooking thing. Join. Oh, you're strong. Alright. Holy attack then. Okay. So I need to still keep Yorimitsu-san for Shutendoji. Or not. This was easy enough. But I imagine with Yorimitsu-san it would be a one hit. Yeah. 100 sake. Hey! I needed 500 for one silhouette Magatama. And I'm just getting 300 sake like this. Okay, yeah. The rates have definitely been super boosted.
最近金ちゃんが出ずっぱりなので着物や鎧を着るのに一苦労なんですよね
Okay.
もう全部ちゃちゃ結びでいいですかね
They added
ダメです
reruns.
か
I love this. They added reruns. Now it's the dungeon itself that's taking a long time to load. Okay. That went away a bit too fast. Alright. So I guess I'll try fighting normally and see how well I do. I really do feel like I'm slowed down in this dungeon. Also, Yorimitsu-san has a super boost.
さすがですねそ
Maybe
の
I'm
技
just
のキレ私も見習いたいものです
meant to kill everything and use her again. And use her again, charge her up again at the one of the last mobs here. I'm curious. How long does
敵
it
に
take?
情けや容赦は無用源頼光参りまし四川走破と
Yeah. Alright. Alright. So, hmm. I should probably stop soon, right? Spike is supposed to be the mid boss here.
礼などいりません
Let's see.
当然のことをしたまでです
Okay, so it just needs to charge her up again. Okay. Our Vanguard is triple boosted. Quadruple?
妖
Triple?
怪討
Quadruple?
伐のコツをよく聞かれるのですが、狙いを定めて切る、それぐらいしか言えることがないんですよね。
Ay, ay, ay. She doesn't show it on her face, but she is an exterminator.
来光とそう呼ばれることもありますね。一つ
And
撃
me.
退、お好きに呼んでください。死人に口なしですけどね。
Okay, she was still going. Sorry to cut it off.
うっかりクレムツまで寝ちゃいました。
Left in the car? What car? There's a car here? Hold on. Maybe she meant a car. Like one of those animal drawn cards. Or perhaps in this case maybe a yokai drawn card? But she is an
さ
exterminator,
すがです
so
ね。
I can't
そ
imagine
の
her
技のキレ、私も見習いたいものです。
yokai. I can't imagine her employing yokai. In all honesty. She made an exception for the beast? I forgot his name.
さすがですね。
Kintoki-san.
その技のキレ、私も見習いたいものです。
Yeah, Kintoki-san calls him Ri-chan, right? Yeah, Ri-chan. But that's not a yokai, that's a kamikui. Yeah, I would imagine that she's also
鬼の妙義を目の当たりにできるとは思いませんでした。
determined to kill all the yokai or and the kamikui. Maybe no. But her parents are an exception. Seriously, let's start cooking.
鬼の妙義を目の当たりにできるとは思いませんでした。
Yeah, she's more of a battle junkie. Yorimitsu-san, I mean.
どうせだ。 Okay. さすがですね。その技のキレ、私も見習いたいものです。
Oh, you. That Daiki had survived. This was the last one, right?
ツナ、金ちゃん、サダ、末竹。四天王の皆は
Ooh,
私
these are the
の
four
大切
ones.
な部下です。
Suna-san.
皆信頼するに足る立派なもののふです。
Suna-san. I don't believe I've met Suna-san and Pei-san. I met Suitake. Usumi Sadamitsu. Who's that? Because that's the one that introduced us to the Odin Vanguard. Sorry, Odin Warding. And let us kill that thing when we're hugely under level.
敵に情けや容赦は無用。真意源頼光、参ります。真意道来人。
Oh. Yes, it was 3 times.
集めてくださったんですか。さすが頼りになりますね。ありがとうございます。
I must click then. Let's try this one. I believe this should also be easy.
義
Especially
経
as
とは
it's
遠い親
just a
戚で
boss.
す。いやー、昔義経の鍛えた刀をポキポキしちゃって泣かれたな。そんなつもりはなかったんですけど。
Ooh. Hey, this place looks very cool actually. Let's see how strong my own power is. Okay. Yeah, I'm strong enough. For at least the 100 level. Oh, I'm definitely strong enough.
この肩についている弓は雲霧という名前です。ああ、鬼の妙義を目の当たりにできるとは思いませんでした。
Okay. I can kill the 101 easy. But that's normal. And it took me that much hit. So I believe I can do hard.
私の刀は同時切りというのですが、
normal.
折れてしまった時のために替え刃を持ち歩いているんです。これでいつでも新品の切れ味というわけです。来光とそう呼ばれることもありますね。撃砕。
Finish.
お好きに呼んでください。死人に口なしですけどね。
I believe this was the same dialogue I cut her off in last time.
北西の方角に何やら怪しげな気配を感じます。
Northwest
妻を使い
direction.
にやるのがいいか。
Northwest direction. Northwest. Are you talking about Suicune? Because that's the North Wind Pokemon.
さあ、
Not even the south.
今日も
Right?
視線を打ち果たすため
Wow.
参りましょう。
Just a normal attack is enough. Okay. But I was getting 100 of those other parts and 82 sashimi. So I guess I would need to do more dark fin clears than the dungeon ones. Also, incidentally or maybe coincidentally, both of the events have the same dungeon structure. The first dungeon is a full dungeon, and the second one is a boss, just the boss. Hmm.
集めてくださったんですか。これでよろしいですか。
I have almost. Yeah, I 400 and. Oh, I can get them. Alright. Time for the bonuses. Yay.
集めてくださったんですか。さすが頼りになりますね。ありがとうございます。
Wait a second. I do get a boost using those, right? Yeah, it doesn't tell if I have them. It only tells if I have them boosted or if I'm them equipped. Magatama equipment also gives me bonus and yeah, that replicas, right? Masuhana and Oni skull. Which one do I want to show? I want to show the Oni skull. Both of them are attack 10, lightning 10, slice 10, okay, and defense. Oh, hold on, this is strong compared to my other defense. HP 10, defense is 15. HP 20, defense is 15. HP 10 defense, and this is my strongest defense accessory yet. Wow. Alright. Okay. Now I should have more bonuses. And this means plus 6 sashimi. Plus 12 sashimi. And that's normal though. Plus 12 sake. Okay. And now I want to see. I believe I did not see any. Oh, they're doing it. Yeah, I want to see the achievements. Da, 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 gloomy. Do I want these? Any of these? Yeah, there's no daily complete, so I don't have to do all the dailies. I just have to go for the ones I have wished to go for. If there's a day I am not farming, for example, I just want to do a fast clear. Oh yes, I want to get these at least. So I would need to clear these ones, the regular ones. Yes, I want the limited. Yes, restores and the drop boost. But I don't want these. To be honest, I have an abundance of these. I may want Blue Lotus, but not really into it. And yeah, I guess I just want to do one each of the dungeon per day. So two of these, one, two, three, four, four of these 6 dungeons at least. This dungeon. All right, let's join this guy. I'm done with the events now. No event left. Hello. I don't have any water types, do I? Excited for the was fish was is water. No, fish was is water. No, I imagine same as Celio. Celio? Imagine same as Celio. Hmm. Okay. Hmm. Okay. Okay. Let's try this. Fish boss. Do me at sea. Oh, wait for him to get in first. There we go. Holy. Yep. Holy.
あの世で恨むがよい。解き放て。あの世で恨むがよい。灼熱。
Okay, so he's weak to
引き
holy.
放て
Oh, wow.
癒しのこれで大癒しの光これで100人力です
勝手を忘れちまったな。いや忘れたままでよかったもんだ。こいつは
これで100人力です解き放て
So he can damage me very hard.
あの世で恨むがよい解き放て
This is nice. Yeah, this was nice. Yeah, I think I'll make Kojirou my priority.
「癒しの光これで大丈夫これで100人力です楽にしてやろうぞあの世で恨むがよいとあの世で恨むがよい灼熱
Yay, I can do damage.
楽
I'm
にしてやろう
always
ぞ
pleasantly surprised whenever I can do damage to these hell bosses, especially in hell mode. Because I was always the guy being getting carried.
灼熱灼熱灼熱楽にしてやろうぞ
私は
楽にしてやろうぞ
大事にやれる救急
あの世で恨むがよい
最近こっちじゃないですか救急としちゃいますよ玉竜助けてください玉竜助けてください玉竜助けてください
楽にしてやろうぞ
玉竜助けてください
楽にしてやろうぞ
近づかないでください
癒しの光を癒しの光をこれで100人力です
大金
解き放て
庫救急
消し止め
としちゃいますよ
Yay!
現状三蔵と申しますふつつか者ですがよろしくお願いします
Let me try that as well. If it gets filled up fast enough.
いやこれで大丈夫ですこれで100人力です解き放
Ooh,
て
that's a large model. I couldn't. The model was actually pushing me back, with a lot of space between the
楽にしてやろう
target and model. Ouch! It rammed me.
解き放て解き放て癒しこれで大丈夫です灼熱楽にしてやろうぞあの世で恨むがよい灼熱灼熱解き放てあの世で恨むがよい
You know, let me also try.
改良していただいたボディは大変最適です耐熱出力200%対人に加えオーバードライであれば対炎症にも備わっています出力200%オーバードライ私はやれる私はやれるくださいよし り最適化されたブレードさばき、
Oh.
出力 200%、
Of
オ
course
ー
we
バー
did
ド
it.
ライブ。破壊します。
Ooh. Awesome.
広域打撃アーツ1型解放。破壊します。投擲開始。出力 200%、 オーバードライブ。破壊します。
と
Okay. I can work with this. Yes, I can work with this. Ooh.
改良していただいたボディは大変破壊します。耐熱、より最適化されたブレードさばき、軽度であればご出力にも備わっております。オーバードライブ。ご安心ください。直ちに処分。ご安心ください。直ちに処分。スラスター出力上昇。広域打撃アーツ1型解放。
Ooh. That's some nice damage.
破壊します。破壊します。破壊します。
Ooh.
破壊します。破壊します。破壊します。より最適化されたブレードさばき、ご覧ください。ご安心ください。直ちに処分いたします。
Ooh, I can charge it as well. I believe that's my strongest skill, no? Oh. Nice.
楽にしてやろうぜ。
改良していただいたボディは大変快適です。破壊します。耐熱、耐水、対人に破壊します。軽度であれば対炎仕様も備わっております。広域打撃アーツ1型解放。広域打撃アーツ1型解放。
せいややややややややたせいやせいやせいやややそうややあの世で恨むがよいやややややややせいせいせいややややせいややややややせいやややせい癒しの光をこれで大丈夫です。これで100人力です。
少し血の気が戻ってるな。
割れた時のために
お前が言うなら前に出るだろ。嫌ってくれるなよ。
し心境放置。いや見ててください。観音菩薩様どうかしました。心境放置。いや見ててください。観音菩薩様豪華。心境放置。いや見ててください。観音菩薩様どうかしました。あれ観音菩薩様、
He did not go into his knockout phase, knock off
どれだけ
phase.
転んでもいいように絆創膏いっぱい持ってきました。
やせいせいせいやややせいはせいやたせいせいはせいとせいせい楽にしてやろうぜ。せいや灼熱せいせいや
So the cross can take out the tadpole,
せい
the fishling.
ややとはせいやややせいせいあの世で恨むがよい。やせい
セイちゃんどうかはしましたじゃないですけど。心境放置。見ててください。観音菩薩様豪華転送。心境放置。見ててください。観音菩薩様豪華大金庫寺でギュギューッとしちゃいますよ。玉竜助けてください。
I forgot how many were left because he wanted to do 10. I wasn't keeping count. But maybe I can solo with a bit of time though. It will take a bit of time to solo this guy. This is it. Whoa.
ややややせいやややややせいやせいはせいややせい灼熱はせい巻き上がれ。はいやでやえはやいやはせい
見ててください。観音菩薩様心境放置。見ててください。観音菩薩様豪華転送。心境放置。いや見ててください。観音菩薩様心境放置。見ててください。観音菩薩様心境放
勝手を
置。
忘れちまったな。いや忘れたままでよかったもんだこいつは。
豪華転心境放置。見ててください。観音菩薩様心境放置。いや見ててください。観音菩薩様心境放置。見ててください。観音菩薩様心境放置。
Looks like both our weapons broke at the same time.
心境放置。終わりですか。わかりました。
Alright, prepare. Right, where were they again? Going for the win, right? Sorry about that.
何か用か？
Ah, he crashed. He crashed. Ooh. So I can actually skip the screen if I move. Huh. But the actual accepting stays. Dialogue accepting stays. I do wonder how many times have we cleared this. Is there clear rewards? Okay, yes. So thunder skill. What's it give? Gacha. Regular gacha. But it's a normal difficulty. What's thunder skill hard? Times 100. Let's see the maximum rewards. Melting transcendent and really? Oh, normal gloomy Artsy. No, 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 no. Thunder skill hell 100. Transcendent thunder skill hard 100. Godly. And then gacha. Normal is gacha. Then ornamentation godly. Ornamentation transcendent. SP gacha for 60 clears. SP gacha for 60. Alright. It doesn't really have anything. Oh wait, only this event has clears, but not the other. Ah, only this event has a clear achievements. All right. I have no idea what that guy is doing. Anyway.
頑張りますのでよろしくお願いします。
5 more runs means 100 more energy. Oh. Okay. Mighty Bang. Oh.
癒しの光を
ドリア
よよよ
ゼリア
せいせい
ドリア
せいせいせいよ
ゼリア
解き放て
ゼリアゼリア
癒しの
ド
光を
リ
よせいせいよせいせい
アドリア
I tried to eat.
よよ
Keyword try.
ゼリアドリアゼリア ドリ
勝手に忘れちまったなゼリアよかったもんだ
So you can do. You can get inside his model.
どうかし心境放置
But it requires him to eat. But getting out is just as simple as moving. Okay.
ああよかったちょうど道に迷ってたところだったんです
You know, I really want to play Star Rail after this. Oh no, no, no! Actually, I want to start up in Infinity Nikki. See how they changed the story apparently, but I haven't played it before. So, but I did see the trailer and yeah, I did see streamers. Well, not streamers, but YouTube
楽にしてや
for it. But
よ
I prefer the prior story too. I agree with the player base. But
せいよ
the essence of the game has not changed.
よ
The dress up game. That's what I wanna try. Dress up MMO. Well, it's not really MMO, it's open world.
こんなところにいるの？助けてください。見ててください。観音菩薩様。豪華新境法事。
勝手を忘れちまったな。
観音菩薩様。どうかしました。
忘れたままでよかったもんだ。こいつは
新境法事。いや、破れなかったかな。どれだけ転んでもいいように絆創膏いっぱい持ってきました。
This is nice. This is.
楽にしてやろうぜ。癒しの光を。よよよよせいよよせいよよよよよよせいせいよよよせいよよよ
157.
よせい
Really? Have I really just been streaming for only 2 hours? Felt like more.
これで大丈夫です。よよせい
見ててください。私、新境法事。いや、見ててください。観音菩薩様。新境法事。見ててください。
勝手を忘れちまったな。
新境法事。
いや、忘れたままでよかったもんだ。
見ててください。
こいつは
観音菩薩様。豪華新境法事。
I think this is the first time I've used Sutra Seal a lot, even compared to my USPC days.
いや、破れなかったかな。
One more, I guess. I'll just use the move. Yeah, in essence, I just want to do
感動っ
one
ていう
each.
のは名前じゃなくて、家業は現状って言うんです。
Daimyo.
あんまり覚えてもらえなくて。
Huh. Alright.
せいせいよよせいせいせいせいよよよせいよよせいよせい楽にしてやろうぜ。せいよよよよよよせいあの世で恨むがよい。癒しの光を。よよせいよよよよせいせいよよせい
私はやれください。私はやれる。菩薩様。よし。豪華転送。やっぱり無理じゃないですか。どうかしました。見ててください。観音菩薩様。豪華新境法事。いや、見ててください。観音菩薩様。新境
Yeah,
法
that's
事。
definitely something I've used a lot
勝
this
手を
time.
忘れちまったな。
See?
いや、
21, 35, 15.
いや、見ててください。観音菩薩様。新境法事。いや、見ててください。観音菩薩様。新境法事。いや、破れなかったかな。
Are we done? Or... I wasn't keeping count.
もう終わりですか？
How many more? Yes, this is the last one then?
よよよよせいせいふんせいせいよよよせいふんせいふんよよせいふんよせい
One chase bliss, right?
よせいよ
Why one chase
よ
bliss?
せいふんよせいよよよよふんせいよよよふんよよよよほよせいふんよよせい解き放てよせいよよせいせい癒しの光をよせいよよよよせいふんよよよ
少し血の気が戻ってるな。お前が言うなら前に出るが嫌ってくれるなよ。
Oh, I was still hitting, even though I was knocked away.
豪華転送新境法人見ててください観音菩薩様新境法人見ててください観音菩薩様新境法人
Oh.
いや見ててください観音菩薩様新境法人
Okay.
いや破れなかったかな新境法人
Oh, was that it?
Oh.
Okay. Well, that was a nice run. Now I would need to do 10 more runs of the other one. Or maybe less. It shouldn't be 10. Maybe it would be like 8 or something. 8 or 9. You. What if you wanna run more? What if you wanna run more? Okay. 3 more, that's 60 energy. Energy. I have a limiter. Yeah, let's do the limiter as well. Because I do want to farm the other one as well. You know, actually, this is one of the rare moments I'll actually do the all clear for all dungeons. Oh. Oop. I wanna try this. What if I
少し
try
血の気が
original?
戻ってるな。お前が言うなら前に出るが嫌ってくれるなよ。
あの世で恨むがよい。癒しの光をこれで100人力です。よよせい
You know, the next time. I'm just sitting on my.
安価で妖怪に凸とかどうかな。
So I guess I'll change the event name for this. Yeah, both event or rerun. Okay, she's definitely slower. Hmm?
癒しの光をこれで100人
ごめん。ごめん。
癒しこれで癒しの光をこれで100人力です。
聖戦開発人が太陽系制覇したくなってきちゃった。硬派戦乱甲子輪銀の妖精聖戦開発人甲子輪よくと優勢
もう全てはどうでもいい。
可愛くて甲子輪硬派戦乱ねえもっとわらわとよくと優勢聖戦開発人硬派戦乱お前も星にしてあげるよくと優勢聖戦開発人呼んでもらえるなんて嬉しいです。でも私に務まるでしょうか。
So Orimi was not it one. For a second I forgot I was streaming. So I was really quiet. Sorry about that. Yeah. I have to get into a streamer mindset of yapping. I don't know if I'm a yapper or not. I don't think I am. But I do get tired. I don't know if getting tired means that I'm a yapper or not. Also, she's not attacking. She's just guarding? Huh.
新居の掃除行きます。いや見ててください。新居掃除見ててください。
もう全てはどうでもいい。
見ててください。観音菩薩様豪華転送新居掃除見ててください。観音菩薩様豪華転送どうかしました。新居掃除見ててください。観音菩薩様ご新居掃除見ててください。観音菩薩様どうかしました。あれ観音菩薩様もう終わりですか。
Yeah. Or maybe he just has good element. Hmm. Hey. Here is it. Hmm. I think I will actually stop streaming here. I will continue keep farming, but here's the thing. I did do the event stories, and I don't really want to put this on a stream type word. If I can help it, I would still want to keep it an event story word. It's not really a farming thing. Hello. Oh yeah, long time no see indeed. I was not streaming either. So yeah. Actually, I was just streaming as soon as the next event came out and streamed the story for an hour or two and then went off. Hmm. I will try to start streaming more though from now on. I should have more time now to stream. Oh yeah, I love this. I'm actually more than Dark Finn and the Silhouette weapons and Magadama, I'm more interested in Sasaki Kojirou. I want her. I want to max her. In JBPC, I don't have her yet. And I honestly did think that she was never gonna come back. And I was genuinely surprised when they announced that they had a rerun for the Kojiro event. And that you can get Kojiro as free again. Yep, you can. Who else is on? Arrow should be on, right? Hold on. Okay, he's not. Well, originally it was also 7 scrolls. I believe you can get the rest of the 3 scrolls through a drop from the last dungeon. I'm not sure actually if I need help or not. I never tried the help mode. I have not tried the hell mode yet. I have only just been farming the fish in hell mode so far. I did find out I can do the fish solo, but it's better to have a partner with someone to farm with. But I did end up doing a lot more of fish. Now I want to try and clear others.
さすが頼りになりますね。ありがとうございます。
It's right in. Gloomy Red Sea. I've just been farming the fish so far. I found out that instead of water, holy does more damage. Or maybe that's just because of my loadout. I have Holy Magatama and the bow.
せいせいややはせいせいややせいふんややややせいせいふんややせいはせいやや癒しの光をこれで100人力ですやややせいはせいやこれで100人力です終幕です
私ももっと勉強して体を鍛えて天竺へ行ってみせます
Who is? Oh, ah, Nidaime.
気合の一杯飲んだし行きますか
Because he is weak to holy. That's why. He works.
癒しの光をこれで100人力です
These are ready.
さすがですね悟空今頃何してるかなまた怒られちゃうかもしれないです立派に
I think Seizo can work anywhere.
観音菩薩様
He's just that OP.
心境法人いや見ててください観音菩薩様心境法人見ててください観音菩薩様心境法人いや破れなかったかなどうかしましたあれ観音菩薩
Alright.
どうかしました